it's quite different compared to last year.
Well, I really like the car. The car is pretty much quicker than before. So yeah, it's dream car for me.
It has a bit more downforce, which makes it better to drive. Also, the braking is improved a lot, so for the moment it's really nice to drive.
So Tatis and everyone involved in it have done a good job. It handles a bit differently, it drives a bit differently, and yeah, overall I'd say I prefer the feeling.
The car is new, so there's lots of things to learn, but honestly I think
we've been trying loads of things with the team, done loads of different tests, different setups, all these kind of things, chipping away, to be honest.
Yeah, really, really exciting. It's a nice step and it's definitely got differences which I think will definitely help me moving forward, so I'm quite happy with how it feels.
Yeah, great to be back here, returning from F4, so good to step up this year. New car as well, so you get to play good out for everyone. It's been great.
I think it's a really interesting car, definitely it's faster than the previous one. I think all of us have a lot to learn.
My first impression was really impressive.
The Formula Regional Middle East Trophy has touched down here at Yas Marina. It's a new challenge and a new era. So, let's find out who's in the mix.
Good afternoon from the Yas Marina circuit in Abu Dhabi, the nation's capital of the United Arab Emirates. You are about to witness the dawn of a new generation. The Formula Regional Middle East Trophy is the global debut for the brand new Tartus F326 race car, which will guide the future generations of Formula One superstar to the pinnacle of our sport. This is the first time ever that this car will go into a qualifying session, and we've got 32 drivers across 11 teams to do battle royale. All I can tell you is that this is the perfect place to start the season for these competitors. A lot of experienced drivers coming back, a lot of experienced teams coming back as well. And in cooperation, we've also got some new faces to go out onto the circuit for the first time. Some from Formula 4 here last year, some from other championships across the globe. But one thing is for sure, this pole position battle is so unpredictable. We've had an amazing few practice sessions over the course of this week. 8 test sessions prior to the weekend's practice sessions yesterday.
The Trophy has touched down here at Yas Marina, the meeting place of champions. And we've got a brand new race car, the Tartus F326. It's a new challenge and a new era. So, let's find out who's in the mix in 2026. Mumbai Falcons are the reigning team's champions, and they won the crown in 2023 with a certain young Kimi Antonelli. In 2026, they're up for another great campaign, with Colombia's Salim Hadda, Kia Nakamura Berta of Great Britain, and the American superstar, Sebastian Weldon. 2 years ago, Race GP won the driver's title with Finland's Tuukka Taponen. Now they've got an amazing lineup from all over the world. Gerard G of China, Yuki Sano of Japan, and the UAE's home title favourite, Rashid Al-Daheri. Swiss team G4 Racing arrive in Yas Marina for the very first time, and Patrick Nose has brought 3 star talents to the grid. 2 Frenchmen, Andrea Dupe, Super Dupe as he's known, alongside Macau F4 race winner Jules Roussel. Also in the team is Kyrgyzstan's Artem Sebrukin. Keith Donegan's Race Performance Motorsport squad have flown in from Piacenza to take on the challenge, and they've got 3 superstar drivers: Miguel Costa of Brazil, Poland's Jan Pirowski, and from Italy, Giovanni Mascio. From Lake Garda in northern Italy comes CL Motorsport, run by David Lee, and he's brought 3 fantastic drivers to the foray. From the UAE, Michael Beloff, from China, Newman Chi, and from Switzerland, Enea Frey. It's the 10th anniversary for Pinnacle Motorsport, and the boys from Manila have brought 2 flying aces to the foray. August Raber from here in the UAE, and Miami Heat himself, Alex Powell. Trident Motorsport have won the last 3 FIA Formula 3 Drivers' Championships, so their thirst for victory cannot be denied. And with the 3 drivers they've got on board, we should see some strong fireworks. Kai Darianani of Great Britain, Max Popov of Italy, and Serbia's Andrea Kostic. ART Grand Prix come back to the Middle East after winning the title last season with Evan Gilter. Now they have 3 new faces to put themselves into the mix. Taito Kato of Japan, Singapore's Kabir Anurag, and the Monegasque, Matteo Giacardi. Van Amersfoort Racing have an immense reputation in single-seaters. They've given us almost a quarter of the current Formula 1 grid over the years. And this season, in the Middle East, they brought 3 powerhouses. India's Dion Gauda, China's Felix Fu, and Portugal's Francisco Macedo. Leading the charge for the new teams on the grid is Kiwi outfit Rodin Motorsport, who have been the dominant kings of the British scene for the last 2 seasons. And there's 3 drivers who will not just be making up the numbers on board. Alex Nenovich of Australia, Reza Sawerdhan of Great Britain, and Germany's Maxim Renn. And finally, after a 1-year sabbatical, MP Motorsport are back. And Sander Dorsman's Flying Dutchman have 3 brilliant drivers in the squad. Alex Abkasaba for Kyrgyzstan, Singapore's Christian Ho, and Brazil's very own Lightning McQueen, Alsu Feldman Nito.
So we're getting ourselves into qualifying trim there. We've just gone full course yellow as we've left the pits for the 32 cars, rather than a full red flag scenario. So it looks as though we've had our first stoppage of the season in qualifying 1 at turn 9. That is turn 1 on this configuration of the circuit, but it's still known as turn 9. And it means that all of these cars are slowing down under full course yellow. That gives you the chance to see them live on the broadcast for the first time. And may I say, the F326 looks absolutely spectacular. Somewhere in aerodynamic flow between the old Formula Nippon cars of the early 2000s and the old Indy Lights cars of the early 2010s. These cars look absolutely stunning. A few people have been pointing out on the social media feeds that this car looks like a baby Formula 1 car under the 2026 F1 regulations, and they're not far wrong. This has been simulated and designed in several manners to try and get us close to the action. That's why we've gone under full course yellows, because we've got a stationary car already. That's very unfortunate indeed. And who is that has parked out on the circuit? Try and make out who that is that has been wheeled away from the circuit already. I think it might be, trying to figure out from a distance who that was. We've gone back to green flag conditions because that car has now been wheeled away. Trying to make out who it is that has not come through in the first sector, because that's where it will have happened. I wonder if that is Felix Fu who's had a problem. We'll double check as the cars make their way round the course, but certainly a few cars have not come through. Oh, Felix Fu has come through now on the first sector under green flag conditions, so it's certainly not his car that is stationary. We'll try and make out who it is that has not come through to start the next time lap, but obviously that's going to be a really different situation. One of the members of the stream saying, I've never seen that in quali, full course yellow. You're going to see it a lot more because it's now within the power of race officials to go full course yellow in qualifying rather than red flag, to bring the session to a better conclusion rather than to have stationary procedure under red flags to put it under full course yellow. And that's something that the race officials have decided for the 2026 season is a better way of manoeuvring a car out of position. So there will be some red flags in qualifying, but if they feel that all it needs is a full course yellow, then they'll do that instead of stopping the session outright. So that is one of the issues that we've obviously been able to get rid of. It looks to me as though the car that's stationary out on the circuit is actually Sebastian Weldon. Now, if that's the case, that's the American out of the first qualifying session of the season. And of course, he won't just be out of Q1, he'll be out of Q2 as well. So that is devastating for the American, whose first round of the championship is going to see him start from the back of the field for 2 out of the 3 races. Now that is disastrous. So Sebastian Weldon of the Mumbai Falcons team, if that is indeed the case, and he's going to be starting dead last in race 1 and 3, there's only 12 races this winter season rather than 15 in previous years. So that's 2 big chances gone. That is devastating news for the American, and certainly not what he needed. He's got an amazing amount of support back home in St. Petersburg, Florida. And of course, the man who comes from unbelievable racing stock, the son of the great Dan Weldon. Sebastian is now going to have to sit and watch this qualifying session from the sidelines. Indeed, his car is not circulating. That is absolutely terrible luck. Well, very disappointing indeed. So, that's 1 man down. All the others will continue, but now you can see for yourselves what these Tartas F326 cars look like at full chat and at full limit. Wonderful to see these cars in operation. And right up to the front end of the qualifying has come Alexander Abkasava on a 1:53.4 so far. Then it's Alex Powell for Pinnacle. Salim Hanna, the other Mumbai Falcon, is up in 3rd ahead of his teammate Kian Nakamura Berta. And then we've got Newman Chi in front of Kabe Anurag. Then it is Michael Belov, Andrea Dube, Taito Kato, and Matteo Giaccardi. As up to the top comes Max Popov, 1:49.5. So now we're really flirting with the top level. Maxim Rem does a 1:49.3. Expect to see times well into the 1:48s. So it's going to be very exciting to see who manages to grab this pole position. But currently it's Rem from Popov. Kai Dadianani comes up to 3rd, but everybody is still dialing up the times. But unfortunately, 1 man is not going to be setting a lap time, and that is Sebastian Weldon. Devastating. As the Mumbai Falcon driver will stand on the sidelines and watch as not 1 session goes up in smoke, but both of them do. He won't be able to get a time in the second either. Nakamura Berta's just had his last flying lap time deleted for track limits incurred at turn 1. Expect a few of those over the course of the session. It's definitely looking pretty treacherous out there at the moment as drivers try and find fast times. Christian Ho gets the fastest first sector. It's worth bearing in mind that Christian Ho and Taito Kato are both going to start the season, but they are not going to finish it. By the time we get to Qatar in Lusail, sadly, both of them will have returned to Europe for their preparations for the FIA Formula 3 Championship. So they will not be finishing the season, sadly. So a very difficult situation for all of the contenders getting themselves up to speed as Alex Powell bangs in a 1:48.9 ahead of Christian Ho and Rashid Al-Daheri. The Mercedes junior, Rashid Al-Daheri, who has effectively replaced Alex Powell on that roster. But Powell is still a very tough force to be reckoned with as a rookie now in Formula Regional. He is the cousin of the Olympic medalist Asafa Powell. He was born in Miami in Florida. He grew up in Trinidad and Tobago, and he has Jamaican heritage. He really is a superstar driver of the Americas, and certainly the United States' next big hope of getting into Formula One and staying there. He's an amazing talent, and hopefully this is just the next chapter in Alex Powell's march to the Grand Prix paddock. Alex Ninovic has gone 2nd quickest, the Australian. Christian Ho 3rd from Rashid Al-Daheri and Kabe Anurag, who is the Alpine young driver. But a good effort from Alex Ninovic, GB3 champion last season, 2nd in the F4 British Championship a year before. As up to the top comes Taito Kato. Now we're getting serious. The ART Grand Prix talent goes up to the top spot, just 0.005 of a second quicker than Alexander Abkasava. So really doing a fine job so far. Kato, Abkasava, Powell, Ninovic, Ho and Al-Daheri. Then it's Kabe Anurag, Maxim Rem and Francisco Macedo. Kian Nakamura Berta comes back up to 3rd place. Number 71 has just had their best time deleted. That's Rashid Al-Daheri. So he will drop back. But Taito Kato has the provisional pole, 1:48.873. Only 0.005 of a second quicker. So very exciting to see how it battles out for the moment. But Kato, Abgasava, Nakamura Berta, Powell, Ninovic and Aldeheri. Then Christian Ho, Kabir Anurag, Maxim Rem and Francisco Macedo in front of Costa, Sano, Sawurthan and Dion Gauda. Then it's Kostic ahead of Pidovsky with Max Popov down to 17th. Well, it's only brief because Max Popov has gone back to the top of the times. 1:48.83. He's managed to find 0.04 of a second more. There is Sebastian Weldon. Looks like we've had another driver out of contention. Not entirely sure what's happened to our 32nd driver in the mix, but we've got 31 drivers out there at the moment, so someone is missing. Not entirely sure. Keeping an eye on things is not altogether easy. I'll double check and see who it is that's not in the mix, but we'll figure that out as we go through. So the contenders still putting in a very strong run so far. I've just figured out who it is actually, looking through the entry list. It's Jules Roussel. So it's Jules Roussel who won the Macau F4 race at the end of last year. So Jules Roussel is not there, and that's unfortunate. He's been doing a grand job up until this point, getting some decent times in for the G4 racing team. But the Swiss squad already has one absentee. André Dupe is in the lineup, and so is Artem Sevryukin. But sadly, Jules Roussel is nowhere to be seen. So Max Popov is now in front of Alex Powell, who's gone quicker than Tato Kato. Alexander Abgasava, Kia Nakamura Berta, Alex Ninovic, Christian Ho, Rashid Aldeheri, Kabir Anurag and Maxim Rem in the top 10. Then it's Macedo, Sano, Costa, Sawurthan, Gauda, Kostic, Pirovsky and Newman Shi. Then Michael Belov in front of Andrea Dube, Kai Dadianani, Gerard Shi, Felix Fu, Artem Sevryukin, August Reber, Enea Frey, Salim Hanna, Matteo Giacardi and Alcifel Manito, Brazil's very own Lightning McQueen. He actually carries Lightning McQueen's colours on his helmet and race suit, because back home in his native Brazil in the Porsche Carrera Cup Sprint Challenge, he actually races in Lightning McQueen's colour scheme. Max Popov ahead of Alex Powell. Christian Ho's just gone fastest of all in Sector 1 at 22.9, so he looks very good for it. But let's not forget that it's going to be an interesting one for all of the contenders to try and beat him. Christian Ho is only going to be here for part of the season, because he's obviously going to be focusing on FIA Formula 3. Emilia Sargent pointing out that it's Dupé. I'm very well aware that it is Andrea Dupé, but I still recall his nickname from back in the past in karting. He used to be known as Super Dupe, and that's kind of stuck in the head so far. Thank you for correcting me. I'm well aware that it is Andrea Dupé, but it's very tough for that nickname to be shaken off you when that's all you've known him as for the last 5 years. Abgasava top spot, Taito Kato back into second place again on a 1:48.815, 0.05 of a second quicker than Powell, so it really is tight at the top. But when you consider that the entire field in testing this morning was covered by 1.2 seconds, that really is quite phenomenal. 30 seconds to go in qualifying one. I've just had an update about the G4 racing driver Jules Roussel. It's a broken engine, so that's what's happened to keep him out of qualifying one. Hopefully he'll be back for qualifying 2 if they can fix it in time. So the contenders are still putting on a good show. There is Taito Kato, who's now slipped all the way to P4. Abgasava's top, Rashid Aldeheri second, Kia Nakamura Berta up to third. And look at the gap between first and second. It's 1,000th of a second. You can't even begin to imagine how difficult it is to get that close to your opponent. There's only 1,000th of a second closer to be before it's a dead heat. And over the course of this racetrack, that is unbelievable. Who would have thought the very first qualifying session of the 2026 season with this brand new Tartas F326 race car would be settled by 1,000th of a second? And it looks like it's going to be the Kazakhstani Alexander Abgasava that will go top spot in front of the hometown hero, Rashid Aldeheri. Popov is third, then Nakamura Berta fourth, then Kato, Powell, Ho, Ninovic, checkered flag is in the air, Anurag, and then Yuki Sano, the Toyota young gun from Miguel Costa, Maxim Rem, Francisco Macedo and Reza Sawurthan. Yellow flag at 5, So that is the hairpin where Verstappen made that move on Hamilton just over 4 years ago. But what an exciting battle this is going to be in race 1. If the qualifying is going to be settled by 1,000th of a second, boy, are we in for a show later. As Kiya Nakamura sets his best lap at the very end, 29 thousandths of a second off pole. The top 4 drivers are covered by less than half a tenth of a second. Anybody hoping that the Tartas F326 would make Formula Regional even closer? Well, guess what? You're bob on the money. Absolutely extraordinary. We're going to see a replay of what happened there at turn 5. Is it a spin going out? It is. It's a spin going out of the turn. And that looks like one of the MPs, I think. So we'll double check who it is that's facing the wrong way, but that's certainly a lap time that's gone for a Burton. It's Alsufeld Manito. It is indeed an MP. So there we are. Alexander Abkasava ahead of Rashid Al-Daheri, Maximilian Popov, and Kiya Nakamura. Wow, what a start to the qualifying season in Formula Regional 2026. This F326 car, all the simulations have told us things are going to be better, closer, easier to drive, closer to the limit. And I tell you what, the first qualifying session of the new season with this new car, the gap is 1,000th of a second. That's the best advert for the new Tartas you could ever have asked for. What a start to 2026. Magic. And the gap from first down to last, get this, 1.1 seconds. I am just blown away. Absolutely blown away. If Weldon and Roussel had been in the mix, we would have had 32 of them, separated by a whisker over a second. Don't you just love the F326? If you want to be in pole position, you cannot afford a single mistake. You've got to be perfect. 27 drivers covered by less than a second. Wow. I tell you what, the new F326 has made its debut with pomp, flamboyance and flair. There is Sebastian Weldon's car broken down on the outlap. Disaster for him. He doesn't get any lap times in this session or the next one. But when you consider that the pole position is settled by 1,000th of a second in the first session of the season in the all-new Tartas F326 with 30 cars separated by 1.165 seconds. That's now to about now. Stunning. Absolutely stunning. If you're a hardcore fan of motorsport, you can't look at that and not be impressed. All of the early signs from Tartas were that this was going to be a better, faster, more exciting car to watch and race. They were right. They were so right. So now we get to do it all again for Q2, and that is obviously going to give us the Race 3 starting grid. The qualifying 2 for Formula Regional Middle East Trophy will start at 14:40 local time. That is in just under 11 minutes time. Now the big question is, have G4 Racing been able to get Jules Roussel's car ready at least for Q2? One question we already know the answer to is Sebastian Weldon going to get a time in Q2? The answer is no, because they can't get his car back to the grid fast enough. There was Sebastian Weldon actually crossing the pit lane exit so he can report back to his team, but he's got no car to race with in the qualifying session, so he's got to go from the back of the grid in both race 1 and race 3. What a heartbreaking start to the season for the young man from St. Petersburg in Florida. But there are the ART Grand Prix team, full of all of the excitement from last year, still reliving all of the glory days with Evan Gilter last year. There is Kabir Anurag of the Alpine Junior Academy. Looking forward to seeing what the very likeable Singaporean can do here in the Middle East. This is his first time competing in this category, and it's great to see him. Taito Kato was here last year, of course. Probably one of the most excitable, friendly, chirpy, cheerful, bouncy personalities I've ever seen in Formula Regional. Every time he sees me, it's a fist bump, it's a handshake, and it's a hug. One of the loveliest men in the sport. He's got a big, big future, and Honda could back him all the way to make him one of the nicest personalities on the Grand Prix grid one day. And based on his talent and ability, I reckon he could go all the way. So you can see just how difficult it is to get to pole position. You're playing with thousandths of a second if you want the best lap time, not hundredths, not tenths. Trident Motorsport here for one reason and one reason alone, to get familiar with this car before the European Championship. But this is a team, of course, that have won all 3 of the last 3 FIA Formula 3 Championship drivers' titles. So they know exactly how to win. Of course, their backs are to the wall this time. They've got Max Popov, Kai Darianani and Andrea Kostic in the lineup. Max Popov, 17 years of age, born in Sochi, and now, of course, under an Italian license. Raced for Van Amersfoort last year and PHM IAX for the year before. Also a winner in the F4 Central European Zone title fight. Andrea Kostic, the 16-year-old from Belgrade in Serbia. Raced for US Racing last year across the F4 Italian, Euro 4 and Formula Winter Series campaigns. Also represented Serbia in the FIA Motorsport Games 2 years ago. And then, of course, Kai Darianani, the man who took on and beat Dan Wells on iRacing many years ago. And that was enough for Dan Wells to say, do you know what? I'm going to back this boy. I'm going to coach him. And ever since, Kai Darianani's been putting on some great performances. He raced in GB3, Euro Cup 3 and the Formula Regional Middle East Championship last year. He was the Formula Trophy UAE champion in 24. And he's had plenty of great performances in the background. There he is, carrying not just the flag of India, but the map of India on his helmet. He's very proud of his heritage, is Kai Darianani. He races under a British license, but he carries the Indian flag on his halo. He's a very talented young man, is Kai Darianani, and he just gets better and better every single year. There could be a win or two in this Formula Regional Championship battle. We're going to get to see what the competitors are able to produce over the course of the season. Here are the pinnacle pair. August Reber, originally of Hungary, now based in the United Arab Emirates and carrying the flag. He lives in Dubai, an hour and a half down the road. He was very strong indeed in F4. He's hoping to be just as quick, if not quicker, in Formula Regional. He's certainly come out of the blocks fighting fit. In testing, he's been very competitive indeed. Originally from Sweden, my apologies, not from Hungary. I was thinking of Tamas Genda for a moment. Alex Powell, the man who carries the Star-Spangled Banner and the Jamaican Yellow Cross on his helmet. Raised in Trinidad and Tobago, having been born in Miami, Florida. He is the cousin of the Olympic medalist Asafa Powell. All of Central America is keeping their eyes firmly planted on this young man. He is the Miami Heat of motorsport. Can he go all the way to the top in an era where America has never been more interested in Formula One? They could do with a superstar, and he could be the next big thing in Formula One from the United States. With Cadillac getting on the grid, anything's possible. So the competitors just getting themselves dialed in with a new set of tyres. They're going over the data. There's going to be a little bit of a pause before the drivers actually get out onto the circuit. They've got an extra 5 minutes at their disposal. Spot the talent all the way down the pit lane. Here is the CL Motorsport team based out of Lake Garda in northern Italy. And there is Chi Junroi, or Newman Chi for European fans. The Chinese ace putting on some decent times in the past. Formerly a Prema Racing driver in F4, now for CL Motorsport in Formula Regional. And definitely helping the team to some decent times across the week in testing. But then I could say that about everybody in the grid. When the whole field is covered by 1.1 seconds, that tells you one thing and one thing alone. There are no bad drivers in Formula Regional this year, are there? Certainly not in the Middle East, Jerofi, there aren't. Still can't believe that. 1.1 seconds covering the whole grid. My word, driving talent is immense these days. There's the Swiss talent, Enea Frey. Very talented racing driver in his own right, of course. The Swiss driver, based out of Arnstein in Argau. Doing a fantastic run, the 17-year-old up to this point so far. Great to see all of the teams able to run on an equal playing field and only exchanging a few tenths of a second between each other. Very exciting to see how all of these drivers and teams are going to continue into the second session. Hopefully, everybody's going to get through without too much difficulty. There is Michael Belov, who is the senior statesman of this competition, 24 years of age, representing the United Arab Emirates. He's had the most experience of any driver on the grid. Still carries that fantastic Racing for Delano sticker on his race helmet. Looks like he's actually borrowed Giovanni Maschio's helmet for this particular race. I know they're all friends up and down the pits, but that's definitely a Maschio logo rather than a Michael Belov run. And that might explain it, because they're in the next pit garage to each other. But that is not Giovanni Maschio, that is Jan Pierowski, the very talented man from Rożyczka in Poland. Third in the F4 Spanish Championship last year and second in the EWC. And of course, he was an FIA karting superstar for the Tony Kart Factory team, which included a European Junior Championship title. Big opportunity for him to continue the work laid down by Robert Kubica. There's plenty of Polish drivers working their way through the upper ranks of the sport now. Not just Jan Pierowski, but also the likes of Maciej Gladisz. Plenty of other talents as well. They're joined in the team, Jan Pierowski and Giovanni Maschio, by Miguel Costa, the Brazilian youngster. Great to see him work his way up to the next stage of the ladder. And Miguel Costa, of course, raced in F4 Spain and EWC for the Campos team. There is his teammate Giovanni Maschio, a very experienced campaigner out here in the Middle East now. From Veneto in Italy, 19 years of age, raced in Formula Regional Europe and Formula Regional Middle East over the last 3 seasons. So this is his 4th campaign in this car, and he has actually quite a lot of experience to take into this one. There is Miggy Costa. Great to see him in Formula Regional. The man born in Miami, Florida, in the United States. A former Sauber junior, raced in the FIA Karting Championships for the 21 season through to the end of the 24 season. And of course, he was also a competitor for Campos last season in F4 Spain. Here he is with RPM, the team based out of Piacenza in Italy. And there is the G4 Racing team. And I'm sorry to say, there's only 2 cars in the pit lane, not 3. But there is Artem Sevrukin, the 19-year-old who was born in Ekaterinburg, carries the flag of Kyrgyzstan. And he raced last year in F4 Italy, Formula Winter Series, and F4 Spain. Before that, he was competing for Birolart in the gearbox category KZ2 of the FIA Karting Championship. Anybody who knows anything about karting knows that it's all very well to race in OK and then jump into cars. If you stay in KZ2 and gearbox racing, just like the likes of Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen did, then you are worth your salt. Any driver in karting that spends an extra year in gearbox, either testing or racing, goes on to big things. The proof in the pudding is that every world champion in Formula One since 2021 has done that, namely Max Verstappen and Lando Norris. So it clearly works. Engines are starting to rise as we've got 30 seconds before the cars head out onto the circuit once again. One thing I have to say is this brand new Tartus F326 car really has given us what we were all hoping for. A closer field, unpredictability, magnificent race battles, hopefully to come as well. This is going to be so exciting. You've got to remember that there's a lot that went into this. The concept of this car is still very much safety first. In the homologation phase, they were working very closely with the FIA to give light to a car that is both safe and reliable, easy to handle, powerful, but be ultimately the perfect platform for drivers to develop their talent ready for FIA Formula 3. There is only a slight difference in power and a slight difference in weight, but the car is certainly closer to Grand Prix paddock cars than they have been in recent years. They wanted to make it lighter for the drivers in terms of feeling and experience. The actual weight, of course, is heavier than the previous one, and that's because of safety improvements and the new rims of these cars for the Pirellis. But there are a series of factors that contribute to make it more maneuverable. They've been looking into the suspension geometry, the efficiency of the aerodynamics, the new tyres, the specs of the engine configuration. All of these little things have been taken into consideration. And in their simulations, and the one-car tests, they were looking at various different aspects, but of course 32 cars on track is a very different story. The aero efficiency is one of the things they were working on, in particular with the FIA, including intensive test sessions at the Catesby wind tunnel. And of course the higher aero efficiency is what they saw in the simulations and the tests, hoping that it converts into race trim. That's the Mumbai Falcons team just hoping that they can send Sebastian Weldon back out. They have got the car back. I thought he'd be out for Q2, but they are going to try and send him back. So they've had time to get it back to the garage. Can they fire it up? All of the American fans watching along are crossing fingers, toes, arms, palms, whatever they can to send Sebastian Weldon back out on course. So looking more at this car on a technical front. On the engine side, Autotechnica have been working a lot on this particular unit. And they stated it's been quite a challenge actually to develop the first ever 3-cylinder engine of Formula Regional's history. They did a lot of work to contain the vibrations, make it powerful, make it reliable. It's regulated by the power-to-weight ratio imposed by the FIA, but according to the tech people, it's particularly efficient because of the right power curves. It gives you the best output in those situations that you need it the most. Exiting turns in particular is very different in this car compared to the previous one. And they've had a lot of people helping with the development, a lot of core group companies, obviously Tartas and ATM, but they've been assisted by Breda Racing, by Next Solution Technologies. They joined the group in 2025 mid-season alongside Birolart, of course, who are a karting operation, so they're growing the group in particular, the Chorus Group. In October, they also welcomed Kart Republic and IAMI Engines before rebranding the group to the Chorus Group. So it's really exciting to note that both Birolart and Kart Republic are working together closely with IAMI and the Chorus Group. The Tartas car company comes under, so it really is guiding the next generation of racing driver from the karting route all the way through to this car and then sending them onto the Grand Prix paddock. It's an amazing chain reaction, almost like a production line of racing talent from the karting world all the way up to the pinnacle. Very exciting to see how this is going to continue, because if we can do better than 1.1 seconds covering the whole field as we had in Q1, I'll be amazed. And we're looking down the lineup, still no sign of Sebastian Weldon or Jules Roussel yet. So it looks as though those two are going to be starting race one from the back of the grid, if they are going to start at all. Now, Emilia Sargent has asked a very interesting question. Does anyone know why F4 UAE is a trophy and not a championship anymore? I can actually explain this. A lot of people have been asking me about, you know, why are there name changes? Well, this is down to the FIA's new clarification on the difference between a trophy and a championship. A championship runs across several months. A trophy only runs across a few weeks. So as we watch Mumbai Falcons go to work on Sebastian Weldon's car in the hope they can get him out, the reason that the Formula Regional Middle East trophy is called a trophy is because it's only being condensed into a 5-week period. That means that under FIA's new regulations, it can't be deemed a championship. It can only be named a trophy. A championship takes place over several weeks and months through the core part of the season, which is why the European Championship gets to be called a championship and why here in the Middle East it gets to be called a trophy. Similarly, why is the UAE 4 Series called the UAE 4 Series? This is also part of a new FIA remit. Basically, because there are two competitions that take place here in the same country twice a year, one at the beginning of the year in 2026 and one at the end of the year, the trophy, to coincide with the Grand Prix, only one of those championships can have FIA certified recognition, and they've decided to go with the season-ending championship because it's on the same weekend as the Formula One Grand Prix. So that tells you why this championship has been renamed the Formula Regional Middle East Trophy and why its sister championship has been renamed UAE 4 Series. It doesn't have FIA certified status, but it is still governed and run by EMSO and Top Speed Events Limited. I hope that all makes sense. So Dion Gouda has gone to the top spot so far with a 1:54.6, but we are a long, long way away from fastest lap pace so far. And so we're going to work our way further forward. And we'll see if we can continue to get closer to the mark. A 151 from Alexander Abkasava. He's already had one pole position, but only by 1,000th of a second. So if he can make it 2 out of 2, well, that really is impressive. But I have a feeling we could have a completely different pole position sitter in Q2 compared to what we had in Q1, just based on the fact that it's as close as it is. Absolutely incredible. So Alexander Abkasava ahead of Alex Powell and Kian Nakamura-Berta, then Salim Hanna, Dion Gauda and Francisco Macedo. But we're not even into the 148s yet, so we're still getting closer to the mark. Fans of Jules Roussel and Sebastian Weldon currently have very little to smile about indeed, as both cars are still in pit lane. Mumbai Falcons are still trying, with only a few minutes left of the session, to try and get him out there so that he can at least set a reasonable lap time. But it is looking very tricky. 8 minutes to go as these brand new Tartas F326 car competitors wind their way around the W Hotel. You can see the back ends really trying to kick out around the W Hotel. That's what the drivers have been telling me all week. The crosswinds here are not heavy, but the angle at which they come at the car really wants to snap the back end of these cars around. Even though the cars are heavier, they're lighter in feel because of the way that they've been designed, with suspension geometry, with the aerodynamic flow. And as the car gets hit by that crosswind at a certain angle, it pushes the car around. So the drivers are actually, in some of these left-handers, having to wrestle with the angle of the steering wheel just to get the car back into line. It's really difficult for them to have that moment. And of course, when you get a little bit cross-wired on the steering, that can cost you anywhere between 0.5 of a second and 0.2 of a second, depending on how big the snap is. We don't always see it from these long distance vantage points, and that makes it very difficult to read who's doing what. Right, now we're into the 148s on lap times. Alex Powell has gone to the top spot. He's currently 0.3 up on Kabir Anurag, but now Kian Nakamura-Berta comes into play. 148.30 for him. Andrea Kostic is P4, not for long because Andrea Dupé, Miguel Costa and Jan Prodowski are all snapping at his heels as they get some decent lap times down. But it's Kian Nakamura-Berta salvaging some pride for the Mumbai Falcons under the difficult circumstances of Sebastian Weldon's mechanical issues. Now he's gone top. Powell second, Ho third, then Anurag. Up to second comes Rashid Al-Daheri. Alex Ninovic goes top. 148.2 from the Australian. Rodin Motorsport will be delighted with that. The GB3 champion of last year goes top. Nakamura-Berta pops up with a 148.3 to get back into second, ahead of Popov, Al-Daheri and Alex Powell. Christian Ho P6, then Macedo, Anurag, Kostic and Pedowski. Yuki Sano going well. Andrea Dupé. And up to 11th comes Dion Gauda. Still, these times are shuffling. And amongst the competitive times, it's still a second between everybody. You cannot afford to let a single apex in a single sector get away from you. This is so tricky, so difficult. One dropped curb, one slipped apex, one slide of the steering wheel, and you'll go from 3rd to 30th. Alex Ninovic currently in provisional pole position on a 148.257, 0.04 of a second quicker than Kian Nakamura-Berta. Then Max Popov, Rashid Al-Daheri, Alex Powell and Christian Ho. Then Kato, Anurag, Macedo, Abkasava, Kostic, Pirovsky, Gauda, Sano, Dupé, Fu and Costa. So tricky up at the sharp end. Very difficult to predict how this is going to go. Down the straight, powering up through the throttle. A very exciting mission this for all of the contenders. They know, of course, how tricky it's going to get. 290 brake horsepower under their right foot and 360 Newton meters of torque. The first ever 3-cylinder engine in a Formula Regional car. Great to see what these drivers are able to do with it. So far, so good. Rashid Al-Daheri goes top. That's brilliant news for him at home. Rashid Al-Daheri, who lives just a few minutes away from the circuit here at Yas Marina, flying the flag for the United Arab Emirates in the number 71, goes top at home. Rashid Al-Daheri, provisional pole position, the Mercedes junior driver. If he maintains this, the locals here will go bananas. Ninevich second. Nakamura Berta third from Popov, Powell, Ho, Kato, Anurag and Chi. Newman Chi breaking into the top 10. Great news for the Chinese talent. Then Macedo, Kostic, Abkasava, Costa, Sano, Pedovsky and Artem Sevrukin. Dion Gauda, Reza Suwerthan, Giovanni Mascio and Gerard G rounding up the top 20. This is so difficult to predict. Jules Roussel, by the way, has left the pit lane. Jules Roussel is now getting some lap times under his belt. So that's great news for G4 Racing. They've been able to get Jules Roussel out onto the circuit after all. That's a sigh of relief for his fans, but will he get a decent lap time under his belt? So Jules Roussel is out on the circuit. Will Sebastian Weldon join him? They've only got 3.5 minutes to do anything at all. I wouldn't be at all surprised if they decide to just get the car ready for the first race. The advantage, of course, is that his tyres will be less used going into the first race. So his tyres could be in a better condition than a lot of his rivals. But it's still not going to be easy. Al Daheri, top spot. What an opportunity for the hometown hero. The Emirati looking good to put the Yas Heat colours of his Race GP car into pole position, and that could be the catalyst for another Race GP title charge. Don't forget that in 2024, Tukka Tarpanen got the job done for them. Rashid Al Daheri is still provisional pole in Q2. Pole position in race 1 will be Alexander Abkasava by just 1,000th of a second. But can Rashid Al Daheri get the home crowd on their feet for a pole position? Yellow flag at 1. And it's removed fairly quickly, so it looks like only a brief pirouette. Still looking down the pit lane to see if they're going to get the Mumbai Falcon moving for Sebastian Weldon. I think they're not going to manage it in time. So very unfortunate indeed, as there is Reza Suwerthan. Very talented young Englishman from Poole in Dorset. GB3 race winner in 2025. F4 British winner before that. And of course he was third in the FIA Motorsport Games in F4 in 2024. The first British driver to get a Motorsport Games medal in F4. So Rashid Al Daheri is just 2 minutes away from securing his first pole position of the season. And we've got 26 drivers covered by less than a second. Currently, Alsufeld Manito is trying to get his car up to speed, as is Michael Belov. And Jules Roussel, of course, is only just getting his tyres up to temperature. But what an advert for this new Formula Regional season. It really is going to be sensational. Apologies, by the way, if your picture is affected. It looks as though there's some slight signal issues, which we certainly didn't have yesterday or the day before. We'll try and get on top of those in time for the race later this afternoon. But rest assured, all of the team at Race TV are working hard to kill it. It's unexpected, but we will do the best we can still to provide you with the free coverage that you are able to get for this first part of the season. 1 minute to go. Yellow flag again at turn 1. So I wonder if, again, it's a left-hander. I wonder if those crosswinds are really starting to intensify now. And certainly looking out of the window, the palm trees overlooking the W Hotel look more intense. Red flag, red flag. And that's it. That's game over. There will be no more time to set a lap. So Rashid Al Daheri is going to be in pole position. Rashid Al Daheri for the United Arab Emirates will go pole position at home in the third race of the weekend. That is fantastic news for Rashid Al Daheri. Frustrating news for everybody else. But what a sensational battle it will be. And I'm afraid the driver who is stopped out on the circuit is Jules Roussel. Session will not resume. And so very sadly, Jules Roussel and Sebastian Weldon will start both race 1 and race 3 from the 16th and final row of the grid. Well, some people's misery is other people's joy, and Rashid Al Daheri will go top spot, as there is Jules Roussel parked up at the side of the road once again. More problems with the G4 Racing machine. There is a bit of time before the first race this afternoon, so hopefully they'll get on top of the situation. But the session will not resume. 49 seconds to go. There's not enough time to get lap times in. So that's it. Game over for qualifying. So for round one, we have 2 pole position sitters. Alex Abkasava will be pole for race 1, and this man, Rashid Al Daheri, will be pole position for race 3, and in front of his home fans as well. Expect the local newspapers tomorrow morning to have his face plastered over the sports pages. They really love this boy here in Abu Dhabi, and it would not shock me at all if the local press take this as an opportunity to see their homeboy, the Mercedes F1 Junior, don't forget, get a pole position at home. And all it takes is a local star in this part of the world to be on a grid amongst the international talents, and they come by the masses. So we could see quite a lot of the UAE motorsport fan base pop in tomorrow to watch this man from pole position. What a battle it's going to be. There you go, a few of the fans flying in. They clearly saw the news, and now they're making their way in. So here's the provisional results of qualifying 2 for race 3 tomorrow. Rashid Al Daheri, pole position at home. Alex Ninovich alongside him on the front row, only 1,000th of a second quicker than Kier Nakamura Berta. Alex Powell ahead of Max Popov, Christian Ho and Taito Kato. Then Kabe Anurag, Francisco Macedo and Newman Chi rounding out the top 10. Then it's pole sitter for race 1, Alex Abkasava in 11th position, ahead of Andrea Kostic. Artem Sevrukin doing well in 13th ahead of Miguel Costa. Then Yuki Salo, Reza Sawerdhan, Jan Perovski, Dion Gauda, Giovanni Mascio and Gerard G. Then it's Andrea Dupé and Felix Fu from Salim Hada, Matteo Giaccardi, Maxim Rem and Kai Darianani from NAF Frey, August Raber, Michael Beloff and Alcifel Manito. Sadly, Jules Roussel and Sebastian Weldon do not set a time. Like, subscribe and hit the notification bell. You won't miss a single race this season. Race 1 of the new Tartus F326 era. We'll see this man start from pole position in race 3. Alex Abkasava will be pole for race 1. The whole field is covered by a whisker over a second when everybody's running at full chat. I cannot wait to see how this season's opening races will unfold. From me, Jake Sanson, that's it for qualifying. Join us again in UAE 4 and Formula Regional Middle East Trophy when the 2026 single-seater season gets underway. Bye for now.